Hi everyone, welcome to another Photoshop tutorial. Today I will show you how I made the professional video manipulation. This is the base stock image where I started from, and this is the end result. I will close this. This is the original PSD file, by the way. And I will close this and I will show you how I got to that result. These are all the stock images that I used. 5 stock images. This is the base one. The first thing that I'll do is make the dimensions of the document smaller, because I'm also recording the video, so it will slow down my computer. So we will start with this stock image. You can leave the background layer locked, because the first thing we will do is make the skin smoother. So for that I'll create a new layer and I'll name it smooth skin. And for the first time I used this mixer brush tool, and the settings that I have here are: make sure you have a clean brush, in other words you have no color here. Activate this option here. You can set this on custom and set the wet to 20, load 20, mix 20, and the flow to about 10 or 15%, and make sure you check sample all layers. I might change these options as I go, but this is the starting point. What you do with this tool is basically, it's almost like the smudge tool. You can see that if I click and paint over this area of the face, and now I will disable this layer so you can see the before and after. So you have to be careful with the shadows, because if I do something like this, you can see that I can really spoil the image. So you have to follow the shadows. So I'll select all this and delete, and I will start again. I will probably lower the mix to 15 and the flow to 10%, and I'll start again. So basically you have to brush along the shadows and follow those lines and make the skin smoother. I will make it a bit quicker here because I don't have too much time to spend on all the details. Just to give you an idea of how I made that, so you can see how I smudged the shadow there. So one thing you can do to make sure you don't ruin the shadows is go a few times in one direction, then you come back from the other direction. So something like that. So now before and after, so you can see that you can smoothen the skin with this mixer brush. Let's go here on the neck as well, and you can see those shadows there, so you have to follow them. And there's a small highlight there. You have to be careful to try and keep that there. The best technique is to stroke one time down and then go back up, and that way you don't destroy the shadows as much. So let's see before and after again. Also, don't be afraid to change the brush dimensions if you're working on small details. Okay, that's pretty much it with the face. Of course you can spend some more time and refine it, but I'll move on to the other areas so that I can show you how I worked on those. Here on the hand, follow these lines here. Also be careful with the shadow here. So you can see that I'm following the shadows. I'm not going like that. Also be careful with the edges. And here I will increase the brush size here. And see that if I click here and drag, I drag all these highlights over the shadows, and that's not good. You have to follow the shadows. And by the way, I'm doing this with the mouse. If you have a tablet, you probably do it a bit faster, but you can do it with a mouse. Okay, let's see another before and after. Before, after. So you can see it looks a lot smoother now. Let's go with the bottom part. And again, follow the shadows and the highlights in the same direction. Make sure you don't paint too much over the edges. And you see that I'm going multiple times over the same area. That's why I use the low mix setting and the flow as well, just 10%. It's better to go multiple times over the same area and make small adjustments. Oh. Be careful with this highlight here. And as you can see, this vein here, I want to get rid of that. So instead of going that way, I'm going vertical. So I drag the tone of the skin over it, and I will hide it. Also with this two shadows here, paint over them like that, and you will cover them. It's not really difficult to do this. I have to cover this bruise here, so just paint and drag the tone over here on top of it, and you will cover it. Just go multiple times over the same area and you'll get it. And here is a very subtle highlight there. I don't know if you can see it. Try to keep that. Okay, so that's how I use the mixer brush. I would spend a bit more time on this leg here and some areas over here, but anyway, this is the before and after. Before and after. You can see the change really well here, and also here on the knees, before and after. And also don't forget this other hand here. There's not too much to do here, but go a few times with the brush over this arm. Once you're done with the skin, you can move on and remove the peel. And again, I'm working non-destructively using the clone stamp, and I have sample all layers, and I created that new layer, and I have the opacity and the flow to 100%, and reduce the brush size, increase the hardness to about 10% or 20, and just use the Alt key to sample and paint over it. So it's just sample and paint over it. And decrease the brush size a bit. And reconstruct the finger. Okay, something like that. If you look at it at zoom 100%, it looks a lot better than if you zoom in. But you can make fine adjustments if you want. The thumb will not be very visible anyway, so you don't have to worry too much about it, because this is where we'll put that burning note, and it will cover the thumb, so it's not going to be visible. Next, you can add a color balance, and I will not use the exact same values as on the text tutorial because I don't know them, but basically you increase the cyans and the blues. Go on midtones, do the same, and on highlights again, the same, and on the midtones add a bit more gray, more green, sorry, and let's see before and after. Yeah, it looks a lot better now. Next, I use the gradient tool with black and white. I created a new layer, and I clicked somewhere here on the woman's chest and created a radial gradient like this, and set the blend mode to multiply to get rid of the white and darken this part of the image. And then I set the opacity to about 50% or something like that. And I also use the layer mask to remove some of the, let me reset the brushes, to remove some of the darkness on the face. You can see that it darkened the face a bit, so I used the soft brush and I removed some of that darkness here on the legs as well, and here on this highlights as well. So maybe the brush is to reduce the opacity of the brush and just paint to bring back those highlights. And here on the hand as well. So let's see a before and after. So without the layer mask and with the layer mask, and without the gradient and with the gradient. Next, I use dodging and burning, so I created a new layer filled with 50% gray. By the way, I have an action for that. I already made a video about how I made that action. You can see that if I press Control Shift and F3, I get this layer ready for dodging and burning. And I use the dodge tool first. Zoom in, get a soft brush, and set the exposure to about 6 or 8%, and started to dodge the highlights. all over the image. I'll do a quick demo here to show you how I dodged and burned, but this is a process that I repeated over and over again in all my tutorials, and I think you should know how to use this tool by now if you follow my tutorials. Okay. Now then I increased the exposure to about 30% and dodged this part of the floor. You see some of this wood, some areas of the floor have more highlights, so I dodged those highlights. I don't need a guide now. Just make sure you follow the directions of the highlights. Like that. And then I got the burn tool and burned the shadows even more. First on the woman's body, and here on the floor actually you don't have to burn too much because the floor is already dark, so of course you should go through all these details and make some fine burning here. The more you pay attention to the details, the better result you will get. So if you spend like half an hour or something like that, you will get some really nice results. Here I'm just doing a quick burning. You can also darken this tattoo here if you want, increase the exposure a bit. And the eyebrows. Okay, let's see a quick before and after. So before dodging and burning, after. Of course I would burn this part of the face a bit more. Okay, and then you can duplicate this layer if you want a stronger effect. And now you can see the before and after a lot better, before and after. And also here on the face, before and after. I will ungroup this. And then I went with the details. I created another dodging and burning layer. You can use the same layers if you want, but I prefer to have these details on a separate layer in case I make some mistake or something like that. And then I increase the exposure to about 50%, decrease the brush size, and make the highlights. Oops, I get the dodge tool, not the burn tool. And just create some highlights over on the edges of the body. Here on the nose as well. And here on the eyes. See why it's a good idea to work with high resolution images. You'll see a lot better what you're doing. basically make the highlights on the edges. Here on the chin as well. Just decrease the brush size. Here on the fingers as well. Don't be afraid to dodge too much, because you can decrease the layer's opacity afterwards. Make sure you dodge the edges, and then you can take care of the opacity. Of course, you can go here on the glass and do the same, but right now I'm going to spend more time on the body to show you how I did that. You'll take care of the details yourself. And here on the shoes as well, just increase the brush size. I'll increase the exposure even more. Here on this hand as well, make the brush size smaller. Okay, what else? Here on the teeth. And of course you can do the hair if you want. And this part of the head, the exposure is too high. And then you can make the eyes stand out a lot more. Reduce the exposure to about 20% and paint the whites of the eyes. Do the same with the other one. And then inside the eyes, increase the exposure, make the brush smaller, and make the eyes a bit brighter. Make the exposure to about 50%. And let's go to the other eye. Okay, it looks pretty nice now. Okay, let's see a before and after. Before and after. Maybe I dodged a bit too much here, but anyway. And you can do the same with the burn tool if you want. Again, reduce the size of the brush, and make the shadows, the edges. Make this tattoo stronger, stand out. Make the eyebrows darker, and also this tattoo here. Okay, something like that. Reduce the exposure. On some areas you need less exposure. So that's pretty much all that I did. Okay, I burned here on the glass as well. Let me dodge some of the areas here as well. And also this highlight here. And this little lines. And to decrease the brush size. Okay, so this is the dodging and burning. Let me group all of this and show you the before and after. So this is without any dodging and burning at all, and this is with dodging and burning and with those edges dodged. So I think it's a pretty significant change, and this is just a quick dodging and burning. I would spend a bit more time going over all the details, but anyway, this is just to show you how I did that. Next, you can add the fire on the glass. So you can open this stock image and you can copy it, paste it over your canvas, and you can see it's really big. So make it smaller first. Don't make it too small though. And now create a layer mask for this. Fill it with black so that you don't see anything. Then get the brush tool and paint back on the layer mask with white to reveal the fire again. Set a hardness to about 30 or 40%. You don't want to have the edges that to be too hard. And paint like that. Okay, now unlock. Click this icon here to unlock the layer mask, and now you can move the fire independently from the layer mask. You can make it smaller now if you want, and it's too small, make it bigger. Thing like that. Put the fire here and you're done. Now just change the blend mode to screen to get rid of the black background, and now you have the fire there, but it's too bright. So what I did is double click on the layer to get the layer styles and added some inner shadow. Set the distance to 0 and increase the size and also the choke, and set the blend mode to overlay or soft light. soft light looks nice. And okay, something like that. Let me move the fire around a bit, see if I can find a better spot. Okay, and now we have the fire inside the glass. The next thing I did is add that flame that's coming out of the glass. So I use this stock image. Copy it and paste it here. Again, make it smaller because it's too big. Change the blend mode to screen. And now you can make it as small as you need it. Okay, something like that. Place it there, create a layer mask. Get the brush tool, set hardness to 0, and mask these hard edges here. And I want to mask the edge of the glass like that, but the opacity is too strong. Okay, something like that. I want to reveal the edge of the glass so that to make it look like the fire is actually behind the glass. But let me switch back colors and okay, something like that. That's how I got the fire there. To make the fire more realistic, you can create a new layer. Name it Glow. Switch the blend mode to color dodge and use a dark orange color like this. Set the opacity and the flow of the brush to 100% and paint once, and you'll see that glow there. And then you can duplicate that and switch the blend mode to screen, and maybe you can make it bigger, not too big, something like that. And now you have that, the glow of the fire. So before and after, it looks a lot better now. Next, I created a new layer, which I think I named Firelight or something like that. And with the brush tool, set the blend mode of this layer to color dodge, and with the dark orange color, not too saturated, it's too strong, a darker tone. Paint over the hands, it's still too strong. So you can see that with this blend mode you have to use really dark tones and just create the light that the fire creates. So you have to go make some detailed lights here. Use a small brush and just paint over the fingers and the hand here. So if you see that if you use a big brush it doesn't look too good, so use a small brush and make only the edges. Okay, so let me show you before and after. So it really looks like the fire is there, and you can also paint over the face. Need a darker tone. Just want a bit of color here on the neck as well. Also in this part of the hand, on the knee as well, and also here in this part of the hand. nose as well, and this part of the eyes and the face, and especially here on the head, use a stronger effect. And the hair. Basically, this part of the body has to be illuminated by the fire, so paint that part. Use a really dark tone of orange, like you see here, and let's see a before and after. Before and after. So it adds a bit more realism to this. Now you can add that burning note. So you can open this stock image. And you can use the magic wand to get rid of the background. So select the background, delete it. First make sure you unlock the layer. And now you can spin it and make it a bit smaller. And here I added some text, but I used this font Sweetly Broken, and I typed I love you, I think. And you can type anything you want, or you can even use a photograph and put it here and try the blend modes and see which one works. And you can get a photo here, but I use text. So change the color to a darker tone of red and increase the size of the text. And I just want to rotate it a bit. And once you have the text or the photo or whatever you want to put in here, you can select this and press Ctrl E to merge down, and then select this and go to Edit, Copy, go back to your canvas and paste it here. And you can see that it's really big, so you can make it smaller. And if you're not sure how the proportions will look, just make it a bit smaller like that, and then turn it into a smart object. I always do that. And now I can make it smaller, because I know that if I press enter, then if I want to scale it back up, I can do that without losing quality. So once I have the size that I want, more or less, you can spin it like that and use the distort tool. So press Ctrl T to load the free transform, make it smaller, and then right click and choose distort. And you can change the perspective of this and just make it look like she's holding this note in her hands, something like that. And when you got it, just press enter. Now position it here, and I'll call this note, and I'll create a layer mask for it, and get the brush tool, use a hard edge, decrease the opacity just a bit so that I can see the fingers. And now I can start masking this finger. As I said, this one will be covered by the paper, so you can even drag it down a bit and just start masking like that. Now increase the opacity back and just refine the mask. Switch colors and paint back. Okay, now we have the paper between the woman's fingers, and all I'll have to do is create the clipping mask and paint with black to create the shadows of the fingers. Use a soft brush, decrease the opacity of the brush to about 20% and just paint some shadows. It's too strong. Decrease the flow as well. Increase the hardness to about 10% and paint again. Decrease the opacity even more. Increase the brush size. So I'm following the same process as I explained in other tutorials when making shadows. Okay, that's pretty much how I did that. I'll delete some of the shadows. Okay, so that's how I got that note there. Next, you can put the fire over it. So open the last stock image, select all, copy, close it, go over your canvas and paste it here. Make it way small, like that, and change the blend mode to screen. And now you can place this wherever you want. And now you can make it even smaller. Put it here, rotate it just a bit. Press enter, and if you want to get rid of this, you can use a layer mask and just paint with a soft brush over them. Let me increase the flow and the opacity first. And you can paint with black and get rid of them. Okay, you can also use the warp tool if you want and just adjust the fire to the paper. Okay, the last thing that I did to this is just add some sparks here, and again I used this stock image and I use all the sparks that you see here. So I copied that part and put it on top of my image. I made it a bit smaller, not too small though, something like that. Change the blend mode to screen and create the layer mask or use the eraser tool. And I used one of these brushes here and I just masked some of these sparks here and I left only a few random ones. Okay, something like that. Now you can duplicate this layer and move it around and mask some more if you want. If you see that there's too much sparks around, make sure you don't have too many sparks of the woman's face because you want to keep the face visible. So just remove some of this sparks around. Okay. And then you can duplicate that one more time, move it around a bit, and then apply some Gaussian blur to it. And that way you get some out of focus. But you can see that now they are too weak, so you can duplicate that blurred layer, and that way you get a stronger effect. So let me get rid of some of the sparks here. Then once you get here, create a stamp using Shift, Control, Alt and E, or simply select all Actually, I will do it that way. I will select all, go to edit, copy merged, create a new layer and paste that on top. So you can see I have a layer with everything here. And now I just go to image adjustments, variations, and just click once on blue and then more green and click OK. And change the blend mode to soft light and reduce the opacity to 30%. And you're done. That's how I made the professional widow manipulation. And let's see the before and after. So anyways, what I did here in 30 or 40 minutes, it took me about 3 hours to make, because I went over all the details, and you should do that as well, because the more attention you pay to the details, the better results you'll get. So I hope you liked this tutorial, and I'll see you next time.